I belong to you.
I belong to you.
Do just what you want. You're the one I trust.
Puts it into an area. Keo, Zamora!
And I'll always be around when I need some loving, baby. No one else.
Yeah. Put you down. Sing all my melodies,
Hey guys, I'm Sai and welcome to Ace Podcast Nation, the home of the Andy Campbell Championship Show. This is episode number 95. We are hurtling towards our 100th show. It will be here before Christmas. The show is available live on YouTube, Facebook and Twitter. Ace Podcast Nation is also home to many other great shows and series featuring top guests, expert analysts and more. So please do give us a follow on social media and of course subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can streamline your Ace Podcast Nation experience if you just want to talk football by following at AC Footy Show on all social media platforms. And if you prefer the audio versions of shows, you can get them at all your favourite radio and podcast platforms. Just search Ace Podcast Nation and you will get this series and all the other series we do, including mental health in sport, MMA and more. So just as we wait for the chat and the various platforms to fill up, quick shout out to Black Diamond Sports, of course, for all their support around this show. The Black Diamond Sports is a global sports agency representing sports stars from around the world. For more information, you can visit their social media pages and, of course, their brand new website, looking lovely. And today's sponsor is Bespoke Financial, and we really appreciate their support, and I encourage you to check out their brand. Here's a quick word from them.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my auntie Louise told mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if mummy or daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and mummy and daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
Yeah, big thank you to Bespoke Financial. Bespoke Financial specialise in life insurance, critical illness, income protection, mortgages and of course sports cover, and we thank them for sponsoring the show. Darren Ralston of Bespoke Financial is currently giving away a free will worth 140 quid with any new policy which is taken out. So check out that offer and give them a call, because you don't want to miss out. It's a great offer, and as I've said on many an occasion, they've looked after Andy over these past few years, including for critical illness and injury cover. They are top of their field. They provide award-winning service, and we are very proud to have partnered up with such a top-class brand. So go and check them out, get yourself covered, and especially in the way the world is now, I think everyone needs a bit of security. But with no further ado, let's bring the legend in. hopefully his audio connection is good. Let's have a look. It is the goal collector, the fox in the box. He is still the king of the Millennium Stadium. It is the man, the myth, the legend, ex-Cardiff City and Middlesbrough striker, David Jones' favourite. It is Andy Campbell. How are you, sir?
Good evening, mate. Yeah, good. Yeah, really excited to talk about the Championship. We've had another cracking week. Loads of games.
It's been a blockbuster.
Probably too many games when we're talking about it because we're still playing catch up. Loads more games to come this week. Loads of goals. Another 4 tonight already because Barnsley are getting beat 4-0 by Bournemouth at home, which is a great result for one and not great for another. So it's the gift what keeps on giving, and I think the gulf in the Championship is starting to show as well with the amount of goals what are happening, which I'm not sure is a good thing or a bad thing.
Oh yes, it's been a very interesting week. You mentioned the amount of games, mate. Can you imagine Jurgen Klopp? If he was in the Championship, he'd be having heart failure, mate, with all these games. His players would be too tired, bless them.
Well, Si, you look at Bournemouth played on Saturday. They played in midweek, and then they played again, same as Barnsley.
It's ludicrous, that is,
and
isn't
they haven't got the size of the squad that Liverpool have got. They haven't got the luxury of swapping players. They probably haven't got the luxury of the quality of the younger players coming through like Liverpool have got. So, listen, it's the same for everybody. You never see a Championship manager coming out and complaining. So sometimes you just got to get on with it.
Get on with it. Yeah, just wanted to point this comment out from Gaz there. He says his team aren't even in the Championship, but he wants to support us. I can't fault that, mate, because obviously he's a West Ham fan. He's got no interest in the Championship, but he still gets on board. Cannot fault him, and cannot fault the people. So we got loads to talk about. Let's get into it straight away. The only any other business I really want to talk about today, mate, is the fans are back in the ground, and straight away I think we saw a difference in the Championship. So Luton took a thumping on Saturday to the mighty Bluebirds, 4-0. Yeah. Then in the midweek they had their fans back, only 1,000 of them, but at home against the best team in the league, and they went and blitzed them in
It makes a difference, yeah. It totally makes a difference. I watched a couple of games with fans because I just wanted to see what the difference was, and that made a difference. I watched a bit of the Wickham against Stoke City game. The fans made a difference. Joe Jacobson and a few lads on Twitter said how much of a difference they made. I watched Carlisle in the EFL against Salford. Fans made a huge difference. It's like the 12th man. They were just willing the players to go on, and you know what I mean, because players have been used to no fans. 1,000 probably sounds like 10,000, so it's really good at the minute, and I think it's progress, and I think that's the key for me.
Yes, I think so, mate, and I think everyone wants fans back in the grounds. Everyone wants to get life back to normal. As long as we can do it safely, I think it's only a good thing. It'll be interesting because I know it's not happening in Wales. It ain't happening for at least the time being, which is a shame because, Cardiff and Swansea fans are itching to get back in those grounds. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But hopefully, the more it's done safely at various grounds around the country, it'll keep going. They'll keep expanding it, and more and more teams will get to do it. But.
It's progress, isn't it? It's about progression. It's about it's 1,000, but 1,000 to some teams, especially in the low leagues of EFL, it's a huge thing. You know what I mean? If you can start getting a percentage in, 10%, 20%, 25%, it'll be massive. Obviously there's no away fans because people are travelling, which is absolutely fine. It'd be interesting because I'm sure it was my dad who mentioned about away teams in Germany. The start about away teams in Germany who. With no fans, that they played with no fear. Whereas now fans won't have away fans; they'll just be home fans. So it'll be very different for away teams to now come and play. You know what I mean? To try and calm the crowd down because even when they score, there'll be nothing there. So it'll be very different for away teams when there is only home fans in the ground.
Yeah, it's going to make a difference for sure, isn't it? Because over these last couple of months, teams have got used to playing in pretty much silence. So suddenly. And it might give the home team the advantage again, do you know what I mean? Because I think that has helped with the away teams over the last 10 months, definitely. And we've talked about how it's helped young players in the Premier League, but also the Championship, where they've come in and there's a bit less pressure on them. So it'll be interesting how some of those young players do start to react and play will the experience of having played for 10 months with no fans, will that have settled them down and they won't have any nerves? But as the crowds get bigger, will those young players maybe struggle a bit if they make a mistake? It'd be fascinating to watch, mate. It'd be so used to not having fans in the ground now, isn't it?
But you also, I'll use Wickham as an example because I thought they played very well against a good side against Stoke City. Will it spur teams like Luton, Wickham? Will it spur the smaller sides on to beat the bigger sides because they're in need of some desperate points? Derby didn't have any fans. You know what I mean? Wayne Rooney's first couple of home games, and he was probably desperate to get them supporters back in because both games. I know we're going to talk about them soon, but it's fine margins between. They could have won both of them games, and he could have looked the best manager in the EFL. Where it didn't happen for both games, and it looks like he's struggling a little bit for his first week in management.
Yeah, I think Derby as a club are struggling, and they are the first team we're going to talk about this evening. Unfortunately for them, they're rooted to the bottom of the table. Derby County. What did you make of their week, mate?
It should have been better, but ahead twice into really late stages of the game. Is it a fitness thing? Is it a concentration thing? Is it a naivety from the manager to not shut up the shop because he's an attacking player? I don't know the answers to it. I can only see what I see, and I saw Derby give away 2 very late goals against 2 sides who I'd expect Derby County to beat. And Wickham Wanderers on Saturday equalised really late on in the game. I think 81 minutes, Matt Bloomfield scored the equaliser, and then Coventry City, Kazim Richards scored a really, really good goal in the 83rd minute. Looks like it's a winning goal. And then Hamer comes an equaliser in the 91st minute. You can't afford to drop 4 points in a weak side in the last 7 minutes of a game. It's, that would have got them out the relegation potentially, and or moved them ahead of people. And it's that psychological effect where it puts someone else in that kind of mental state in the league and chasing everybody else, because at the minute, Derby had 2 games there where they should have got 6 points. They're going to have a tough week this week because, obviously they're going to be playing away from home tomorrow against Millwall, and then they go to Brentford. So they've got 2 really tough games this week. From 2 games which they should have won to 2 games that they probably shouldn't win, but they probably will. They'll probably win in both. So it's the joys of the Championship.
Oh, mate, we're going to talk about consistency of teams a bit later on. It's infuriating yet entertaining. But James makes a good point in the chat there. He says it was a massive goal for Wickham, and I do believe that it was a really big goal for Wickham. But when you score when you're 1-0 going in with 9 minutes left, you've got to shut up shop, like you say. And Wayne Rooney knows all about late goals. Let's be honest. He's had a whole career of it, and all that sort of stuff, and I think you'd like to think that he will have try and learn from that very quickly and install a bit of concentration more than anything, mate, I suppose, in those last couple of minutes. But also, you're right about him shutting up shop. He should have, except as the manager, it's up to him to change the tactics going into that last 10 minutes.
Would Neil Warnock have drew both them games? No chance. You know what I mean? Because he's a king. He's a king at doing that and shutting up shop, and he'd probably shut up shop earlier. But for me, it's a skill in itself to you don't have to win the game twice. You don't have to score 2 goals to win a game. They've already won the game. The game's won. You know what I mean? It's for them to lose, and if that's naivety, keeping the ball in the corner or putting the ball in good areas, you know what I mean? It's not about just defending. You know what I mean? Defend from the front. Put the ball forward and stay up. You know what I mean? If the ball's away from your goalkeeper, you can't score.
That's it, mate. And the game I was referring to, obviously, was the Saturday game where they were 1-0 up quite early on, halfway through the first half, and then with 10 minutes to go, they were still 1-0 up. They got to shut up shop and keep it tight. When you take the lead in the 83rd minute, like they did in the midweek game, you've got to last 7 minutes. So, like you say, if that's putting the ball up the other end, put it in the corners, whatever you've got to do, you make sure that you do everything you can to keep the ball away from your goal, and they didn't do that, and they paid for it. We'll get to Coventry a bit later, mate, but they had a good week. Yeah. So next up is Sheffield Wednesday.
Listen, 2 really tough games. You're playing Stoke City, who are free scoring, good side, probably the best players on paper. You draw 0-0 at home against them. You know what I mean? You give as good as you've got. You create a few chances. Yes, they dominated the game, Stoke City, with possession because they've got the players to do that. And then they play against Reading, who Reading are hit and miss at the minute with results and letting goals in a little bit. A goal 1-0 ahead, dominating the game, doing really well, and all of a sudden the player gets sent off, Shaw gets sent off, and it's uphill struggle against a very strong side. You know, you can't play against these best sides in the division and strong sides who know the division with 10 men. It's just it's a real struggle. And obviously Callum Patterson got a very good goal. I thought his header was excellent. Directed it back across the goalkeeper very well. And if you give him Adam Reach put the ball in, if you give him that kind of ammunition, he's going to score goals. So it's about players putting balls in good areas for him. But then it's about players keeping 11 players on the pitch, because Tony Pulis will have been distraught with his player and angry with his player, and rightly so. And I'm going to talk about the sending off later on, but I thought it was unavoidable. Yeah,
it's one of them, isn't it? But like when you go down to 10 men versus a team like Stoke really starting to come into their own over the last, well, probably this season really, compared to the last couple of seasons. I feel like they're starting to show on the pitch what we've been saying. You know, on paper they've got one of the best squads, etc., etc. Sheffield Wednesday, bit sloppy, I think, in certain points. They gave the ball away a lot, particularly against Reading. And like you say, playing when Shaw's got sent off after half an hour, you've got an hour to play against the Reading team, which has got some good attacking players, but also a Reading team who's come back into a bit of form in the last couple of games.
Yeah, they've got the confidence back.
So it's going to be very difficult. Sheffield Wednesday, I'm watching with actually them and Derby. I'm very, very interested to see how their season progresses, because two massive clubs, which at the moment when I watch them play, I think it's them two and Wickham who are probably going to go down. And I know it's only 15 games in, but they just don't look
15
together.
Games in, but by the time Christmas comes, you're going to play 25 games, because the games are coming thick and fast every single week. We're churning two games. It's
faster than normal
vicious
as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, I think teams maybe sometimes would be, at this point, would be thinking, we'll get it together now over towards Christmas and we'll pick up a few points over Christmas with those close games. But you could be adrift by Christmas if you keep underperforming. So it'll certainly be interesting how the season develops for some of these teams. What do you think of Wickham's week, mate?
Obviously, they played at the weekend against Derby County. Drew 1-0, late goal. It's a brilliant point. I watched them for long periods against Stoke, and I thought they did okay without having that cutting edge and creating some real good chances. I thought they did okay against two decent sides, or big sides, big footballing sides in the Championship, but they're not getting the results and not getting the points that they need. And I think that's the point. What will worry Gareth the most is the amount of points. You know what I mean? The Brentford 0-0, Huddersfield 0-0, Derby 1-1. That look like 3 good points. If you're stuck where Luton Town is at the minute, they're 3 very good points. But when you're in the bottom 3, they're not very good points.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately, you look at it, it's one point from the 2 games. But actually, they played very well against Derby, and they played pretty well against Stoke. But when you're down the bottom, points matter, and particularly when you're a team coming up from League One, like, it's getting those points on the board, isn't it? And they're just struggling to put together. The performances have been quite good. They're just not quite picking up those points.
Yeah.
And
it's
maybe
the stats as well, Si. It's the stats as well for me. You know what I mean? They let 21 goals in this season. It sounds a lot, it's the most, but you look at the last 4 games, and the last 4 games have let in 2 goals. So they've turned things around a little bit, and they're defending really well. I thought they were solid against Stoke. You know what I mean? For Derby game, they looked solid. They didn't look like they were going to let 2, 3 and 4 in, but they're not scoring enough goals. And at the minute, Wickham need to score at least 2 to win the game, and have they got 2 in them?
Yeah, they're not. That's probably it, isn't it? And I think, but then I look at it and I watch them play, and I think, if they could turn these performances into points, they could pick up a lot of points quite quickly, because I've been quite impressed with how they've played. But I think a massive thing, as always, we say this all the time, for teams who've just come up, it's those goals, isn't it? It's scoring those goals, and they don't look at the moment like they've got those goals. Who scored the majority of their goals last year?
Akinfenwa scored, and Bloomfield scores from midfield. He drives on.
Do you know who their top scorer was? Was it Akinfenwa?
Yeah, I think so.
Hmm.
He's
Yeah,
not
they
playing
could
now,
do
though.
it.
He's,
No,
I mean,
I
they
was gonna
brought the
say.
lad in from Hearts this season, the centre forward from Hearts, and it's a different kettle of fish. So the SPL to the Championship
God, yeah.
is there's a big gulf.
I'd argue that gulf is probably as big as it's been in probably 20 years at the moment, mate. I really would.
I totally agree. Totally agree.
Next up, Nottingham Forest, mate. A mixed week, mixed form. I don't quite know what. I don't even know if they know what they're doing with their form. It's, performances. Some performances they've been alright and haven't got anything from it.
Yeah. Excuse me. So we can look back to last week. Last week we said exactly the same thing. 2 defeats, 2-0, 2-0 defeats, no goals. This week, no goals scored again. You know what I mean? So no goals in 4 games. That's worrying for.
That's remarkable, mate. When you look at
I
the
know.
strikers and the attacking players they've got, it's
You know what
unreal.
I mean? Listen, Lewis Grabbin not fit. Obviously, Lyle Taylor's getting an opportunity. They're missing Lewis Grabbin. For me, I think he's, if not the best centre forward in the Championship. It's difficult, you know. But then they brought Knockout in. You know what I mean? Obviously, they've still got Amiobi, Joe Lolly. You know, so Harry Hart has obviously signed. So they've still got a good enough squad. I mean, I look at the bench. The bench is scary with Amiobi, Jenkinson, Guerrero. They've got some very good players, which at the minute they're just not doing what they should be doing, and it must be so frustrating for Chris Hughton, because he probably can't wait for January window to open so he can instill his own players within the group, because it's at the minute it must be really worrying for him, because he turned things around a little bit. I thought he came in, he did a good job at the start, but then all of a sudden now they're picking up some really bad results at a difficult time. And yes, listen, Swansea at home was always going to be a hard game because of the way Swansea play and the confidence they're playing. Watford was always going to be a difficult game, but Nottingham Forest, they're a good side, they're a big club. They should be doing better than what they're doing. But you said it last year, last season, on the start of this season. Is this still a hangover? I don't believe it should be, but the players are different. The players are carrying this can and carrying that we're not good enough, or we should have been in the playoffs, or whatever it may be. Because when they played Swansea last week or midweek, that game will have still been in their minds, by the way. So they knew straight away that one cost them last year.
Oh yeah, definitely, mate. And a couple of things for me. Number one, I think I've watched a bit of him the last month, and Lyle Taylor's actually looked better coming off the bench. When he has started, I feel like he's looked a bit like he hasn't quite settled in. Maybe whether it's settled into the area, settled into the club, whatever it may be. But when he comes off the bench, he seems a bit sharper. He's trying to change the game. He's trying to do something special to impress. Whereas when he started, I just feel like he's looked a bit disjointed, and his first touch has been a bit heavy, things like that. But I'll tell you something, mate. I look at that Forest, so I'm looking at the Swansea game, the bench and the squad overall. I would love Cardiff to have a squad like that, mate. This squad, their team is unreal. From the back, where you've got like Christie and Figueiredo, you've got Colback, Knockaert, Guerrero, Amiobi, Lyle Taylor. And then on the bench, you've got Harry Hart, Joe Lolly, Diaz, Jenkinson, Swan, and then the guy who I can't pronounce his surname, Iano or something like that. But
they've got the manager to boot now, so there's no excuse. There's no excuse.
And all those players that I just read out in their squad, that's without Lewis Grabham as well, by the way, one of the top Championship strikers of the recent times. So there's to me, the only excuse can be psychological, and there's kind of psychological impact from when they struggled, when they lost it on the last day is the only thing which I can put my finger on. I'm sure it's not as simple as that, but they need to sort it out, mate, because they are down the bottom. Next up, one of the other teams coming up from League One, Rotherham United. They've had an up and down season, but overall I think they've done pretty well. But they didn't get the points this week. 1 point from 2 games.
They had a very good Saturday. Drawing 2-2 against Bournemouth. I thought they were excellent. I thought the goals that they scored were very good. Lepardo did very well against a good back four. Giving silly goals away though, you know what I mean? Giving a silly penalty away. And then Solanke got obviously the equaliser with half an hour to go, but they still hung on against a very, very strong side. You look tonight, scoring 4 goals. It's you know what I mean, it shows how good a result it was, and To then follow that up against Brentford at home. Yes, Brentford aren't the team from last year, but they're getting there slowly and they're putting their own stamp on things. And yeah, it wasn't a great second half because they held them tight for the first half and then Brentford blew them away in the second.
Yeah, two tough games, isn't it? Brentford and
Yeah.
Bournemouth back to back.
Yeah. But then they'll say it shows how important then the QPR game was a week before because you lose Swansea, QPR, and then you know what I mean. So in 4 games they haven't won. It's 1 point in 4 games. It's not a good return.
So tight though, mate. From like 14th is on 19 points, and then 21st, just outside the relegation zone, is on 13. So like 2 wins, then you could be right, up towards mid-table. But equally, a couple of losses. If a team's below you win, you could go from 14th down to relegation real quick. So yeah, it's going to be. I think that relegation is, this year is going to be absolutely just fascinating, mate. Because I can't call it at the moment at all.
Yeah, that's totally agree.
And it's difficult. Like I could say, any of those teams in the bottom half. I could, if you told me you had a thing into the future and you said any of those teams in the bottom half, they went down, I'd believe you. Because I think they're all capable of it. And I would include Luton, Cardiff, Millwall in that as well, by the way. Yeah. They're all capable of going on a terrible run. Next up is Coventry. What a week.
Yeah,
what a couple of weeks, mate.
We talked about them. Obviously, last week they had a good result against Cardiff City. I know we're probably going to be a hypocrite here because I'm on about 2 draws being a good week, but 2 draws against Norwich City away, a very late equaliser, by the way, but they deserved it. For me, it wasn't a penalty at all for Norwich. I don't know how the referee gave it. I thought the goalkeeper was brave. He came out, took the player and the ball, but got the ball first. I thought it was just a genuine hard tackle, but a good one for the goalkeeper. So a late equaliser there, and then an even later equaliser against Derby County. So it's like 2 wins or at least 1 win. So I think it'll give the players bigger confidence. Mark Robbins was obviously very pleased to pick up those 2 points, and I think he'll have been very proud of his side. To pick up those points against some good sides, and it'll give him confidence moving forward.
Well, the thing is, mate, right? As you know, my son's a keeper. Like, keepers, that's what you train them to do coming out in the Norwich game. And I thought, to give that as a penalty, I would be very disappointed if that was against my team or my son. I thought it was, what's he supposed to do? Do you know what I mean? In that situation, he was. But also, Coventry, when they would have looked at those games, Cardiff at home, Norwich away, and Derby County away, they'd have been thinking, oof, if we can get 3 points from that, we'll be thrilled. Yeah. And they got, what was it, 5?
Got 5 points. 5 points. 5 points unbeaten
from those 3 games.
Unbeaten, yeah.
Only conceded a couple of goals as well.
Yeah, massive return. Huge return, yeah.
Fault them. Quick question on Coventry. Do you think they are going to go down? Like, if I made you say yes or no, do you think they're going to stay up or go down?
I think they'll stay up. I think they've got enough. They remind me a little bit of a mixture of last year's side who came up, the Lutons, the Barnleys, and I think they've got enough. I think they've got enough. What's shown me so far that they've got enough to stay up. Yeah,
I performances indicate to me that they have enough.
Yeah.
Similar to Rotherham, I think, and Wickham as well. If they can score enough goals, it'll probably be the difference. But I've been quite impressed with Coventry. Defensively, I've been quite impressed with them as well. Birmingham City next, mate.
Terrible week for Aitor. 0-0 draw at home to Millwall, which you've got to be winning your games, and then they play Barnsley at home, which on paper it's a game that you probably expect to win. You look at the goals that Barnsley have let in tonight. Hogan scored. They went 1-0 up to give away a silly penalty. And then they're going to try and win the game, which is probably the right thing to do. But you can't leave big gaps in there at your peril in defence. And Woodrow sets up Styles for the winning goal. And Aitor will be distraught with that week because he's bases his sides on being solid, being hard to beat, not letting many goals in. But they're not scoring as many goals. Yes, they're not letting loads of goals in, but they're still letting a chunk of goals in. 2 there, 1 against Luton the week before. They haven't won in 6. It's a bad couple of weeks for them.
Yeah, it's a worrying trend at the moment. They are not scoring many goals. They look a bit disjointed, mate, I gotta say. And one thing about Aitor Karanka's teams normally is they are very organised, very solid.
Yeah.
and they look a bit. I think disjointed would be the best description, but they got as we just discussed before, they got quite a young squad, so but they have got some experienced players chucked in there as well. So not a great period for them.
No, he'll be disappointed.
Yeah, I think so. And next up is the kings of the inconsistency, I guess.
Yeah.
QPR, the most up and down team in the league, and that's saying something.
I don't think. Listen, as a QPR fans, you know what I mean. That they probably won't be that disheartened. You know that they played Brentford away in the local derby on Friday night. They got beat 2-1. They got themselves back in the game. They're scoring goals. They're letting goals in. It must be so interesting. I say every week, it must be so interesting now being a QPR fan because they're always in the game. You know what I mean, against every side. But obviously midweek they played Bristol City at home. Went 1-0 ahead. There's timing of goals, you know what I mean? Goal just before half time, Naki Wells for Bristol City, and then just after half time. So you're not really giving yourself an opportunity. And he made a couple of brave substitutions. Warburton bringing Adoma on, bringing Macaulay Bonne on towards the end, but didn't manage to get the equaliser.
Yeah, it's so strange, isn't it? Like I thought they played quite well against Brentford without really pushing for the victory. The sending off obviously kind of killed the game at a point where they were looking to try and grab an equaliser, and then they go from that to quite a very, in my opinion, a pretty good performance against Bristol, but they still just defensively they look so all over the place, I think, and that's a big problem for them. And I think I said that last week actually, that they do look very unorganised.
That was a concern last year, Si, as well. You know but they had enough quality going forward. Yes. They had more players, more goals.
3-4 top players at the front.
They had goals in them, so that you know, what I mean, they could rescue them from the defensive frailties. But this year they're not scoring as many goals. They are scoring, but just not as many.
And next up is Huddersfield. Mixed week. They picked up 3 points in total from the 2 games, but very, very different performances.
Yeah, I watched both games. I watched them against Middlesbrough. I thought Middlesbrough were excellent at the start of the game. I thought they absolutely took the game to Huddersfield. They should have scored. British Sombalonga should have scored. They went 1-0 ahead. Huddersfield scored a couple of, for me, fortuitous goals. But then Middlesbrough got level with the 83rd minute penalty. And I've just said the same thing. Shut up shop. Neil Warnock's good at it. Well, unfortunately, he didn't. He went for the win, which is probably the confidence that the players are playing in. You know what I mean? He went for the win and left a big hole, and Huddersfield took it and hung on and took the spoils. Probably a draw would have been a fair result. But then Huddersfield down, go to Cardiff City, bit of confidence, and for me, I thought they were all over the place. I really did.
Absolutely dreadful.
I thought they were absolutely awful, and by all accounts, I don't think Huddersfield are travelling very well. You know what I mean? The last away game was Wickham, they drew 0-0. Stoke City, they got beat. Millwall, they obviously the won, so that you know what I mean. But they're not travelling very well, and if that's the performance on the travels, then every team just needs to get at them. Yeah,
I think so. And the thing with the Cardiff game was, they reminded me of the first part of last year where they were absolutely dreadful. They were so unorganised. If you remember, remember that there was a game where the other team broke, and it was like 4-on-1. Because all the defenders were out of position. Yeah. It was really early on in last season, but that's what it reminded me of. They just they have a lot of possession, Huddersfield, and Cardiff kind of set up to deal with that quite easily, and they just But they didn't look pretty, mate, to say the least.
The Championship is not made for possession-based football. You know what I mean? Look at the sides who've been successul in the past.
They're all direct, aren't they?
You know what I mean? Leeds United. You know what I mean? Get the ball forward. It's with pace and go and win the game. And you know what I mean? It's about getting the ball in the net. It's not about keeping the ball looking neat and tidy. You know what I mean? Teams are overplaying, and they overplayed quite a lot of times and give a few some awful goals away.
Speaking of awful goals being given away and overplaying a little bit, Barnsley had a dreadful week.
Had a bad week, and as obviously got worse today. Obviously, they did beat Birmingham.
Oh yeah, of course.
Did beat Birmingham during the week, but they got beat at Blackburn at the weekend. I think hit and miss Blackburn, but obviously they went away from home, got a result which probably nobody expected, and then today. You can't afford a heavy defeat. 4-0 at home against anybody is a bad result, regardless who it's against. And by all accounts, I watched watched the first half an hour of the Bournemouth game tonight, and it was men against boys. Solanke running the game, Billingham midfield dominated them, and it must be a concern for Barnsley because, for me, I think they've missed, they lost a lot of players who played a big part last year, and they haven't filled those holes as yet.
Yeah, I agree completely, mate. Barnsley, like for me, if they can, I think I might have said this last week, so I apologise if I did, repeating myself. But I feel like Barnsley, if they could find like that one centre back who could make them a really solid option at the back, where they concede very few goals, I feel like they could make the playoffs because when they've got the ball, they can play some lovely stuff. They're quite good going forward. They are a bit reliant on, I've forgotten his name, the striker, Macaulay Bonne.
Macaulay Woodrow.
Woodrow, sorry.
Woodrow.
And but I like the way they play, but they concede a lot of silly goals, like goals they shouldn't be conceded.
Yeah.
I've just had 2 WhatsApps and 3 texts saying pretty much the same thing. Have you got to Cardiff yet? No, we have not got to Cardiff yet. Cardiff will be in a minute. I've got some stuff to say. Gaz has asked a question. I think we'll save that question to the end of the show, Gaz, because it's not like a championship show. It's a very interesting question, but it's not a championship one. So we'll save that for the end of the show because it's about BBC Sports Personality of the Year. Okay. Next up, mate, Preston North End. Oh, what an up and down week for them. Yeah,
well, played against probably 2 relegated sides last season, so it was always going to be a difficult week, and it started really bad. Watford absolutely blew them away, defensively all over the place. So to go from that kind of performance, Troy Deeney scored against them. Barkhausen scored. I thought it was a very good goal from a cross, which he finished really, really well. But that was probably the only positive out of that game. And then they go to Bournemouth midweek, lacking confidence. Barkhausen scored again, and then Scott Sinclair scored an absolute wonder goal. Lobbed the goalkeeper from Begovic from like 40 yards out, and it was just amazing. And it just shows the talent of the man. And obviously they were hanging on at the end, 2 late goals from Stanislav and Sturridge, but they probably deserved it, and I was pleased that they got the result. But yeah, very inconsistent at the minute, different than last year.
Like last year they were very consistent, so they were very much, when they were in a good run they were very good, when they had a bad run they were very bad. But this year they've been a bit QPR like, for lack of a better term. And that's no disrespect to either team, it's just that's the new descriptive noun for not even a noun. Jesus, I'm so thick. That's the new descriptive word, isn't it, for being inconsistent. The QPR.
QPR effect.
Yeah. Next up is Birmingham. Not Birmingham, mate. Ignore me. Millwall, mate. Millwall. What do you make of them? Because I quite like watching them play.
I do, but they've had a really poor period of time. They haven't won in 7. 0-0 draw away to Birmingham. Obviously, it was always going to be a hard game. Aitor sets the game up to kill the game a little bit, and then they got the Blackburn Rovers midweek, and it was always going to be a tough game, and they lose 2-1. And it's about getting things right. You know, obviously managers choose and change formations. He didn't play Matt Smith. I'm a big fan of Matt Smith. I think he leads the line really well, and he put Bavardson back in. He's obviously got Parrott on loan from Tottenham Hotspur, and obviously Jed Wallace is, for me, he's a superstar, and he's one of the best players in the Championship. But he's just, at the minute, he's not getting the goals like he got last year, and the return of assists and things that he got last year.
I saw a bit of the Birmingham game, and they seem to be struggling to get the ball to him. I think it was the Birmingham game. They just seem like, I saw a few times they were trying to, who was it? The lad in centre midfield had the opportunity to sort of slip Jed Wallace in behind or get it out wide to him, and just that final ball would get cut out or overhit or, you know, misplaced. So they didn't have that same attacking threat from Jed Wallace because they were struggling to get the ball to him.
Yeah.
But they've got one of their midfielders is out, isn't he? Millwall, and I wonder whether that's having an effect. What's his name? Forgot his name.
It's difficult, side though, when players have like a good relationship with other players. I look at when Lee Gregory played up front for Millwall and Jed Wallace. You know what I mean? Lee Gregory had pace. He ran in behind, and Jed Wallace had pace, running in behind as well. So that they both did the similar things. Whereas now they're playing a target man. He's got to adapt his game a little bit because he's probably working on flick-ons. He's putting balls in the box a little bit instead of running in behind like he was. He's adapting his game and changing his game, which is having an effect on him. I look at the Jared Bowen. The way that he's ripping up the Premier League and doing really well. For me, Jed Wallace is probably a better version, in my opinion. So
a better all-round player, I think.
Yeah, and be more of a threat. So I'd be surprised if Millwall, if they continue to play the way they are.
You said this last year, though, mate, didn't we?
Yeah, I know. But if they continue to play the way they are now, surely as a player, you want to move on and go and better yourself, because at the minute, if he's not careful, after Christmas, if they're playing the way they're playing now, they're going to be down at the bottom of the league towards the end of the season, fighting against relegation or fighting about for nothing. Whereas he wants to be fighting for promotion or playing in the Premier League.
Yeah, Jed Wallace is phenomenal, but he is the player who Cardiff City need in terms of everything about him. Positionally, skill-wise, he's the perfect player.
For Mendes Lang, leaving, for me it fills a massive void and perfect.
Oh, yeah. Okay, next up is the mighty Cardiff City, not that I'm biased. So it was a massive week for Cardiff. Neil Harris had his back to the wall. There was a lot of people discontent on social media. People, including myself, questioning whether he was the right man for the job. He was knee-deep in it. He was back to the wall. And I said last Friday, on this very show, I said the players are not playing for him. They did this week, mate, basically.
Listen, so it doesn't get any better. 7 goals, 2 clean sheets, 6 points, 2 victories. However the way you want to talk about it is absolutely massive. For me, the best thing he did in the 2 games was play 4-4-2. He surprised me with his selection. I'll be honest. If he's going to play 4-4-2, I would have thought that Glatzel would have been the ideal choice to partner Moore. He didn't. He put young Harris alongside him, who I thought did okay. Scored a very good goal. He was obviously a good foil for Moore. Runs in behind. He's instead of both players doing the same thing. And I just thought he got it right. My concern was obviously midweek, and was he going to tinker with things? Was he going to change things? Was he going to do the same thing again? But no, he kept the same formation. He obviously changed a couple of players, wide players, which is obviously absolutely fine, and things worked out. And yeah, for me, it was an amazing week. It doesn't get any better. I think it's massively took the pressure off him. Moving forward, for me it'll be interesting how he goes tomorrow, Watford and Stoke this week, because 2 very, very hard games. If they can stay unbeaten out of the 2 games, 2 draws, if they can nick something else, or if they can get 3 points out of 2 games, I think it'd be a good return, or 2 points, 2 single points, to keep the confidence going into that Swansea game. I think it's key. You can't afford to go into a local derby on 2 negative results against 2 good sides, because Swansea it's going to be a different derby with no fans. You know what I mean? Let's be honest, I don't think there will be fans by then, but if there is 1,000 fans, it won't make a massive difference for a local derby. So it won't be as hostile. So it'll be a completely different game for a local derby. So they need to go into the game with confidence, and the only way to do that is by putting the same kind of shift, same kind of performance in against 2 very good sides.
Indeed, mate. So a couple of little points from me. I still not convinced that Harry Wilson out wide is going to work long term, even though he got a couple of assists in the Saturday game. It was good to see Ojo get a couple of assists on the Tuesday or Wednesday, whenever it was. I thought Ojo looks much better on the left than he does on the right, or Geraint said similar as well. I just think he looks a bit more balanced. My concern is, and I said this to you off air just before we started, when we do play, I think it's Stoke in the next couple of games, and Watford soon, even Swansea, I feel like he will revert back to that one up front, that sort of 2-3-1. I'm concerned by that, because I don't think, I've said it, God knows how many times, Ant, this year, it doesn't suit the players we got.
No. I
One thing
totally agree.
I
So
was go on.
we've just said the same thing about going for games. You know what I mean? Being proactive instead of reactive. And proactive means
Cardiff
going
look better when they're
going
doing
for the
that, don't
games.
they?
Yeah, they do. How many times did you play 4-4-2 this season? To my knowledge, I think we've done it 4 times. And we've won 3 of them. Yeah, Barnsley at home, 1 clean sheet. The last 2, and I'm sure there was one more as well, but I think they might have lost the game. But I'll take losing. I'll take losing if you're going for it.
If you're trying to
You know,
win.
because more often than not, you'll win the games. You know what I mean? You can't win them all because that's just the way the league is. It's impossible. But you give yourself an opportunity to get the points.
I was also happy that he retained Mark Harris in the midweek game because I thought he would have a tendency to rest him after giving him his debut, just to try and bed him in. In my opinion, you don't need to do that, but you know, it is what it is. Also, I thought Glatzel, where he played these 2 games just off the bench, I thought he looked really sharp. I think he grab a goal as well. I think he did. But even so, I thought he was very, very good. And his interview was quite interesting. After, I think it was the midweek game, or it might have been just a general weekly interview, he said Cardiff feels like home. Yeah, he scored against Huddersfield. Cardiff feels like home. And maybe that indicates that he took a bit of time to settle to the area, mate. You know, these are young guys coming to a new country sometimes. And by the way,
it's the same. I just say, you know, what I mean, how can he score? How can he play well if he's sat on his backside?
Yeah,
he can't
of course
do it.
he can.
You know, for me, I look at Harris and I'd say to the young lad, I'd say, listen, you're starting. Go and give me an hour. Run yourself in the ground for an hour against men's football. Run yourself into an hour, and over time you'll be able to do longer and longer. But give me an hour, and then Grattel can come on and take over, because then it's a perfect foil.
Yeah, someone might correct me in the chat, or you might be able to correct me. I thought Mark Harris was more of a wide player, but obviously they played him up front. Is he like one of these who can do central or wide? Is he?
Yeah, I think so. I think he's one of those who's played in the 10, in behind, out wide. But I think with his pace and with his directness, I think it also shows that the manager's been quite clever and being quite neat with it. You know what I mean? Because running in behind is not something that Harry Wilson does. Running in behind is not something that Grattel does. Kiefer Moore doesn't do it. So for me, it's getting that. You know what I mean? I used to love doing it. It was the perfect way to play. So it's nice for Cardiff to get that fine balance and an attacking way of playing.
Yeah, and the last couple of things I'll just quickly say on Cardiff. James, I completely agree with you. I believe that Rawls and Volks should be the midfield 2 central. I think they've got the mobility and the technical ability to be the best combination. But I also think Marlon Pack can do a job if you're winning. You know, if you're 2-0 up and there's 20 minutes to go, he's a good player to bring on and just kill the game, keep it solid.
So if you're playing 4-4-2, then you haven't got that luxury of somebody sitting and just dictating play. You've got to have, because your wingers are going to be bombing on. You've got to have their legs in the midfield. So, and the legs are from Will and Joe. Yeah, it's just one of the things.
But you know that formation which he loves, which is the one where you set up not to lose. I really, really wish he would utilise that more. So say you were 2-0 up with 20 minutes to go. That's when you can utilise that and play one up front and kill the game. Bring your sitting midfielder in. Then you've got the players like Pack. You can bring Glatzel off and say, right, give me 20 minutes of holding the ball up.
Yeah,
etc., etc. Kiefer Moore, by the way, and I'm not ashamed to say this, I was concerned when we signed him. I didn't think we needed him because I thought Glatzel could do the same thing. But Kiefer Moore, I didn't think he scored enough goals. And I think he's making me eat my words, mate. I'm not sure how many he scored this year, but
I think so as well, though. I think when you've got somebody who's running in behind, it creates more space for other players. You know what I mean? If you're playing up front on your own, you're easily marked because 2 can mark, 3 can mark, 1 can mark. Where if somebody's running behind, you're always looking around what's going on, and it creates more space for the ball in the box. If the ball's going in the box and there's 2 people next to each other, then somebody's got him. It's 1-on-1. Yeah, I fancy Kiefer Moore 1-on-1 all day long in the air because he's dominant. You know what I mean? But when there's 2 defenders against 1, I don't fancy him because it's unfair.
Spot on, mate. Garrett's made a really interesting comment there, and I try to avoid Neil Harris's post-match interviews because they do annoy me. He contradicts himself a bit. He said, Garrett says, I thought it was laughable that Neil Harris said Glatzel's the best finisher at the club. Well, he certainly hasn't. He certainly showed it with that goal. It was a cracker. So, my sort of response to Neil Harris saying that is kind of twofold. Number one, if he's the best finisher in our club, why isn't he starting more? Number two, I actually think I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of the better finishers, because from what I've seen, a couple of times he's hit some incredible like volleys and things like that, and they've kind of whistled over, and you can see by his technique that there's something there. There's a real player there, and I just wonder whether he's taken a bit of time to settle, new country. Kiefer Moore scored 7 goals in 15. I got to say that's more than I thought. I thought he'd score 7 all season. So what do I know? What do I know, Andy Campbell?
It's a good return. It's a very good return for a centre forward.
And he looks decent as well. He's working hard, and I still would argue him and Glatzel could work together, but I do like the combination of one of them with Mark Harris. Mark Harris gives us pace to run in behind that no other striker we have gives us. So, in my opinion, at the moment, he's got to play with either Glatzel or Moore, and it would be Moore at the moment. We'll come back to Cardiff, no doubt, at the end of the show. But for now, we'll move on, and it's Luton Town. Oh, yeah, I like watching Luton Town, mate. Up and down, lots of goals.
Yeah, listen, they're all over the place against Cardiff City. Team got at them, but then they used that same tactic against Norwich City. They got at them from the first minute. I thought they were excellent. George Moncur,
he's a player, isn't he?
Just causing problems. I'm sure his dad was a player at West Ham years ago.
John Moncur.
John Moncur, yeah. I'm sure
he
it
was decent.
He was a very good player. Yeah.
Did he play for Boro?
No.
Once upon a time, John Moncur.
He played for West Ham. I think all the West Ham fans will tell us, but I think he was excellent. But James Collins again scores a penalty. Just leads the line really well, and just they fully deserved the victory. I thought they were excellent. They give away a penalty. Standard penalty given away again. Which Norwich love a penalty, by the way. They love giving them
a lot of
penalties.
penalties.
They love getting them.
This week,
loads.
by the way, in Championship.
Loads. Yeah, I don't understand how they get that many and teams get that many. But I'm really happy for Norwich to beat a side after coming off a heavy defeat, and especially a side like Norwich, because probably nobody expected it. But it shows the belief, it shows the confidence, it shows that they're a good side.
Yes, indeedy. There's George Moncur. I really, really like. I think he's a really top player. And I'm just looking at the lineup. There's one other player who I really like, and apart from Collins, who's the boy who plays number 17? Mpanzu.
Yeah.
I apologise.
I like Lee as well. I think it's Rob Lee's son is Elliot Lee. I like him as well.
Yeah, good shout, mate.
Yeah,
well, there you are.
player.
John Moncur was a baller, mate.
He was, yeah. Yeah, I remember I played against him a couple of times, and it was only when I seen he plays a little bit like his dad. He drives in midfield. He looks dead laid back. Loves the tackle. Loves the goal.
He's very much at the centre of everything Luton do, isn't he? Like, he'll win the ball back and start the attack. He reminds me a bit of Roy Keane, not necessarily in the way he plays, but in the influence he has over the side. So, like, he's very capable of winning that ball back and starting an attack in the space of 5 seconds. And it seems like if he plays well, Luton play well, which is you can always do with those players. Great result, by the way, versus Norwich. To go and do that to a team who's by far been the best team in the league this year so far, after getting absolutely destroyed by Cardiff a couple of days earlier, I think shows good mental fortitude, mate, to be able to recover.
It's a sign of a good side. And listen, I'm not saying the good sides always get promoted, because good sides, the league's full of good sides, and even if they finish mid-table, that's progress. That's progress from what they did last year. So anything what they're doing now for me is excellent. I think they're having a really good season. They've got some really good players, but they're going to have some really bad results along the way. And obviously Saturday was a really bad result, but Wednesday was a scary result. Very good.
If I could pick one team, mate, to get promoted to the Premier League, which wasn't Cardiff from the Championship, I apologise that it's not Middlesbrough. I would love to see Luton Town in the Premier League, I've got to say. Just because of their stand and their fans, I would love it. Next up, we have... sorry, lost my table. Middlesbrough, is it? Is it Middlesbrough?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough on fire, mate.
Obviously difficult Saturday. I thought they should have won the game. I certainly shouldn't have lost it. They had enough chances to win the game. Defending normally better than that. Fraser Campbell scored a very scruffy goal, but poor defending. Going forward, that they're really surprising everybody. You know, what I mean, Neil Warnock's sides don't normally attack like they are doing, but they're playing with so much
Middlesbrough
confidence.
have, mate, over
It's
the last couple of years.
it's fullbacks getting forward. The centre forwards are getting chances. Wingers are chipping in with goals. Midfielders are coming up with goals. They're looking dangerous with set pieces. Disappointed, obviously, Saturday to get the result, but against Swansea, obviously, I was talking to our good friend Alan Jones during the game. He was obviously quite happy that Swansea were getting beat. And I thought Middlesbrough dominated. I thought for long periods, I thought Swansea started really well, but after a couple of scares, once the first goal went in, Duncan Watmore's his drive and deflection, yes, Middlesbrough deserved it. He obviously got a very good second goal from a breakaway. Paddy McNair slipped him in, and Middlesbrough were comfortable. And then all of a sudden, they give a goal away, and then it was like the Alamo. And to be fair, Swansea probably should have equalised, but it would have been against the run of play for me because it's about a 90-minute game, and they only came alive once the first goal went in, and Middlesbrough probably deserved to hang on in the end. You can see how disappointing Swansea were with Cooper was at half time with him making a triple substitution. So it showed that Middlesbrough did something really, really well. They thwarted their best attacking threats and broke at pace. You know what I mean? I think that's key in the Championship side. We spoke about Leeds and we spoke about teams who've done use that kind of football, and Middlesbrough using it. And Middlesbrough haven't done that for many a time. And I remember we spoke last year about how excited I was about Jonathan Woodgate and that he's coming out. He's going to play this high press attacking football. Well, Neil Warnock's doing it, but Neil Warnock's doing it, and I wasn't expecting it. So sometimes don't say you're doing it, and just do it, because you know what I mean. Neil's doing it, and long may it continue, because Middlesbrough are going to pick their feet up along the way. Of course they are, because it's just the way of the world. It's the way that the league's made. But they're also going to upset teams as well. You look at the week they've got this week. Stoke City away tomorrow is going to be a difficult game. They went there last year and beat them comfortably. Then they've got Preston away. You don't know which Preston side is going to turn up. So it's a big week, because after that you've got a couple of home games which I expect them to win. So if they can get in the playoffs in and around Christmas, it's hard sometimes to get out of that.
Yes or no? No explanation. Middlesbrough are going up.
No.
In the playoffs?
Yeah.
I think they're going up through the playoffs, mate. I
obviously explain myself. I mean, people will probably say that as a negative, but for me, sometimes I'd love them to go up because the town needs the money. But at the minute, it's a big ask for a chairman who's got to invest so much money. You know what I mean? We've seen Cardiff. You know what I mean? It's sometimes it can be to the detriment of getting promoted sometimes, because if you spend money, you get relegated. You've got to get rid of the players that you brought in. Sometimes it's a bigger risk. Whereas getting the playoffs, build, and then all of a sudden you're ready to go, and that's key.
Yeah, I think Neil Warnock's doing a phenomenal job. Middlesbrough scoring much more goals and creating much more chances than I ever thought they would. Because not just Woodgate, but generally they've been quite not negative, but defensive over the last couple of years.
Predictable.
One team who's not predictable or defensive is Blackburn Rovers. They've taken 14 points from the last 6 games.
Quite the opposite. 9 out of 9. Last week's Preston derby was excellent, but for me, the 2 home games, 2-1 victories were probably a little bit better. And for me, the Barnsley game, you go 2-0 ahead. 2-1, and then they shut up shop. I like that. You know what I mean? I like Tony Mowbray. I like the way they did it, make substitutions to kill the game off. Millwall, you know what I mean? 1-1. They get the second goal right at the end. Adam Armstrong. Listen, when you've got a centre forward like that, who's just dies to score goals, he absolutely loves it, and it's absolutely fantastic. He gets assists, he scores goals. You've got the experience of Stewie Downing. You've got the enthusiasm of Tyrese Dolan. They've got a really exciting squad. If Blackburn can get in and around the playoff side, they've got a really good opportunity.
Oh God, yeah. I think we both tipped them for a late run last year, and they didn't. Yeah. They faded away. But
it's the goals they scored. They've scored 29 goals. They just got so
exciting, mate, didn't they? Going forward,
scored 29 goals this season. That's the same as Bournemouth, but Bournemouth have had a game more, and they're top of the league. So if Blackburn Rovers could keep a few more clean sheets, they'd be right up there.
And what they've added in the summer is depth. They've got a lot of depth. But yeah, they're phenomenal, mate. And it's interesting, like, they beat Preston 3-0 away, but you felt that the 2-1 victories over Barnsley and Millwall were, I agree by the way, were kind of stronger or better performances. And I agree. The reason I agree is actually because I thought it showed great mental strength the way they performed in those two games close together as well. So yeah, they'd be the team I'd be tipping. Them and Stoke for me.
Sometimes it's
apart
easy
from
start
Norwich.
playing in a derby behind closed doors with no fans. There's no pressure, you know what I mean, and that's my concern with the Cardiff Swansea game. There's no pressure. There's nothing really that can intimidate you. Whereas the home games, when you're expected to beat Barnsley, you're expected to beat Millwall. That's when the pressure comes. You know what I mean? There's not pressure in sometimes. There's more pressure in games that you should be winning than games that you're not expected to win.
Spot on, mate. And next up we have, I think it's Stoke City, isn't it? No, it can't be Stoke City. Yeah, Stoke City. Sorry, mate, I'm getting all...
Yes, listen, solid week. 2 clean sheets, 4 points out of... If that's promotion form. Listen, they'd probably want to go to Sheffield Wednesday and get the 3 points, but any side that Tony Pulis manages, you know it's going to be a hard game, and Tony will have been well up for this game with it being his own club, so they're not scoring enough goals, as in week in, week out, you know what I mean? They scored 4 against Huddersfield, but let 3 in. These are the games where they need the goals, so you got to share them out sometimes. But going forward, I thought Nick Powell's goal the other day was excellent. James McLean, excellent. You know what I mean? James Chester, he's just defensively strong. He dominates the back line. I'm really impressed with how he does it. Him and Stuart, is it Bath as well? Danny Bath.
Yeah.
And listen, they've got an opportunity. If they can get into the same thing, if they can get in the playoffs, they can get a good run together, like they're doing. You know, I'm really excited time for them. Because listen, the position they were in last year was just disastrous compared to where they are now.
Oh yeah, but in my opinion, James Chester is one of the best central defenders in the Championship by far. He's top quality. His biggest problem over the last couple of years has been injuries. He's as good as any central defender. Next up is the Minnows. No, I'm joking. It's Swansea City. They had a mixed week.
Yeah, they got Nottingham Forest, beaten 1-0. Middlesbrough obviously came off the back of a defeat against Huddersfield. I was really worried going into that game when I watched it and I saw the way that Swansea set up. I wasn't worried. I wasn't scared at all. You know, I think Swansea were one of those sides, especially what I noticed earlier on in the game, that if they didn't score in the first 10 minutes, then the team's confidence was just drained a little bit, and that gave me confidence as a fan watching the opposite team. So they'll be disappointed, you know what I mean, because I think that they'll have probably wanted a 4-point return, if not better, from their week after, especially after going to Nottingham Forest and getting all 3 points, which is an excellent result, by the way. But listen, at the league table stands at the minute, they're 7th in the league. They've had a really good season. They're not scoring as many goals as they did last year, but they're defensively looking pretty strong.
Good shout, mate. Next up, Brentford.
Excellent week. 6 points started on Friday in the local derby against QPR. Clean sheet against Rotherham at midweek. Sorry, Ivan Toney scored a penalty on. It was a Wednesday night against Rotherham. He also scored on Friday night. You know, listen, you can't make up fairy tales, time. And when he signed, I think everyone probably thought, well, he won't do what Ollie Watkins has done, because Ollie Watkins is a £36 million centre forward, but for me, he's doing better. And if they can make sure that he can carry on the goals all the way through the season, then they'll be right up there. No shadow.
Do you worry for them though if he picks up like a kind of like a long-term injury, or just an injury which keeps him out for like the rest of the season or something, that they haven't got the goals elsewhere?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, I think I do, because
they're not scoring from everywhere like they were last year.
No, they're not. You know what I mean? They are quite consistent with the way that they play. But obviously last year they had 2 or 3 attacking players who all chipped in with the goals. Now they're playing quite one way, a direct way. But it can always work as well, though, sir. You know, if they can. But they need to keep him fit, like you say. They need to keep him scoring. But sometimes with a player who's that big, he's that strong. He can have a big effect on assists and other things during the game. So I don't think Brentford will be worried. And to be fair, the way they started the season, I was pretty worried. And now they've got themselves 6th in the league. They're doing okay.
There,
yeah.
What do you make of Bristol City's week? Very up and down. Not the consistency that we saw early in the season.
Yeah. Now, listen, I expected them probably to go to Reading and get a positive result. Reading obviously weren't in great form. Go there, they get well beaten. First half, bit drab. Go 1-0 down, get an equaliser in 73, and then they give a goal away straight from kick off for Meite. And obviously they're chasing the game then and leaving big gaps. And Lucas Jibe goes and finishes the game off. But yeah, they'll be disappointed side because they're better than that. I think, you know what I mean. They've had a strong start of the season. They've put themselves in a good position. They're coming off a clean sheet against Watford, but then they go to QPR, who I probably expected them then to have a tough game and probably lose the game because they're going into it lacking confidence. But they go there again. Naki Wells scores the first just before half time, and then Nagy scores the winner just after half time as well. So it's two perfect times to score. Not for obviously QPR, but for Bristol City, it puts them back up there and just shows how strong they've started the season.
Yes, they got such. I feel like a broken record almost saying it, but they got such a deep, big squad that I just can't get over it. Like, they've got too many players in some ways. But James Costy says, why isn't James Chester still playing for Wales? Did he retire? I'm not sure if he did retire from international football, but he was a massive part of the Wales squad. And obviously Gary Speed and then Chris Coleman. Nothing springs to mind though about him retiring from Wales. I'm just having a quick look, but he should, if he hasn't retired from Welsh football, then he absolutely should be in that squad if he's fit, because he's, like I said, a top quality defender.
Yeah, totally agree.
And after Bristol City, we have Reading. Woof, back in form. Yeah,
listen, you know, I mean, they've had a tough few weeks. They lost 4 on the belt. Last week they got the draw against Millwall, and then they started obviously against Bristol City. Really good result. As I said, comfortably beat them. And then they got to Sheffield Wednesday, and obviously we spoke about the red card being so pivotal, being important to the game, and it did change the game for them. It brought them back into it. But 4 points, a great return. You know, I mean, 2 difficult games. Sheffield Wednesday away was never going to be easy. Tony Pulis' side, he's turned the fortunes around a little bit. And Bristol City was obviously a great result, but yeah, have they turned the tide and turned the confidence around, and it'll be interesting. I think it's good timing side really that we can probably announce this, that
yes, go for it.
We're going to have a very interesting conversation on Monday with a guest for the live show on Monday. We've got the one and only Michael Morrison, who is a Reading centre half. He's played every game of the season this season so far. He's had a wonderful season, so it'll be really interesting to pick his brains.
Yeah, indeed.
On how things have gone, how they're going. Obviously, potential of getting fans back in, but it'll be a really interesting show, because having current footballers on is different to having ex-players on. So I'm really excited. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's not always easy to do, is it? Is get the current players. So I'm really excited to have that. It's good work, mate. I can't wait to ask him about Lucas João and Ijario, what they like to train with, because they are phenomenal talents. Next up, Watford. Oh dear. Great performance versus Preston. I thought they were outstanding. Mate,
4-1. Yeah, 4-1 side, you know, and Troy Deeney back in the starting 11. You know, I mean, are they giving him minutes? Are they getting him fit? Are they getting him fit to move him on? Is he going to stay for the full season? It's interesting. But then they got Nottingham Forest. I thought
they were dreadful, mate, against Forest.
Yeah,
I really
just
thought they were bad.
Ideas. Maybe it was too many games and playing the Troy Deeney, for example, and having too many games in a short space of time, and just not having the match sharpness, the match fitness, and being able to push and win the game. Because the longer the game goes on, it gives confidence to the opposition team, and obviously Nottingham Forest grew in confidence and probably take a draw.
Yeah, I think Forest would have definitely taken a draw beforehand. Watford would have been looking for 6 points from those 2 games, I think, if we're honest. But João Pedro was very, very good again.
He always is.
Chalbala has really found his groove at Watford since he went there. He's gone there permanently now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Because he was loaned initially when he from Chelsea. I thought he had. But I feel like he's getting better and better with the more games he plays. Very influential. Whether they're getting Troy Deeney fit to sell or whether they're just putting him back in the side because he's ready, I think he helps them either way. It makes them stronger.
Totally
No
agree.
central defender wants to face him.
How can you not? Yeah, exactly my point there. You know what I mean? How can you not want him in your side? He's on paper side, he's a Premier League footballer, so he's the best player in the Championship. He's got to be.
Yeah, certainly up there, isn't he? Next up, Norwich City. A disappointing week for them, mate. Only 1 point from the 6. Draw with Coventry, and then obviously lost to Luton.
Yeah, well, obviously the game against Coventry City, I didn't think was a penalty. Obviously, they got a little bit of luck in my opinion. But then obviously to lose a goal in the 89th minute kills your confidence. It was obviously the way that things went, and they're normally the masters at scoring the late goals, not giving the late goals away. So that'll really hurt them. And then you go into a game against Luton Town, probably hurting a little bit, and Luton get at you, and then all of a sudden you're on the end of a 3-1 defeat. But the turnaround there was it's a really bad week for the form that they're in, but still in second place and doing really well, because we're obviously only knocked off top place tonight. Yeah,
that's the first slip up from them. I think they've been the most consistent side in this league this year so far.
Yeah.
And that's the first time they've dropped a couple of points 2 games in a row. They've drawn, or they've maybe dropped the point here and there, but they've always followed it up with a win or a good performance. So to drop points twice, 2 games in a row, it's interesting. Could that be the start of maybe a little not so good run? We'll see.
Yeah.
And then finally, top of the league as we stand is Bournemouth.
Yeah, terrible week though. Sorry, you know what I mean?
Bizarre, isn't it?
Take today's result out of it. 2-2 draw at Rotherham. You know what I mean? They were getting beat for long periods of the game.
They weren't very
got
good.
back 3-0 down against Preston. You know what I mean? For long periods, they got themselves back into the game. It's a 3-2 defeat. Looks good on
Much
paper,
better,
but you know
doesn't
what I mean? They were well played off the park, and then they go and score 4 goals tonight, keep a clean sheet. So it's just the joys of the Championship. But the thing about Bournemouth is they score lots of goals, they create lots of chances, and if they're going to get out this league, they're going out of it with probably the record league number of goals if they continue to score goals like that. Because just this week, that 9 goals in 3 games is an unbelievable turnaround.
Yeah, it's fascinating because, on paper and everything, as we said before, to watch, they're very, very good. But they've just got like a mistake in them or a bit of like a panic in them almost, because that the 3-2 game against Preston could have easily finished 3-0.
Totally agree.
They got a bit of luck and a bit of, maybe Preston took their foot off the gas a little bit. Whereas if you take that as like not as close as it looks, then you had, like you said, they had a bit of luck. It's interesting, mate. But Bournemouth on paper should be right up there at the end of the season, but I will say they haven't got as big a squad as some of the other teams in and around them, so they need to stay injury free. Okay. So, if you've got any questions, now's the time to get them in. I will go back to that one question, guys. Don't forget, I won't forget. But for now, let's do our 2 ups for the week. Let's start with the downs this week, mate, because I've only got one.
I'll start with late goals, because there was just a ridiculous amount of late goals, and it's going to come back and bite teams on the backside side. And I'll revert back to last Saturday. There was 6 late goals over the weekend, and a team's going for it. You know what I mean? Because your goal difference can have an impact on it as well. On end of the season, letting too many goals in, and I mean, sometimes is it because we've got no supporters and there's nothing to fear, or, you know what I mean? It's just this very strange feel about it. That there's loads of penalties happening and there's loads of late goals, and you know what I mean? It's a concern, and it must be a concern for a couple of managers as well.
Yeah, I think so. It's a weird one because there's a lot of it, and that kind of fits in with one of my downs. There technically is 2, but it's part of the same thing. I've gone for the standard of defending in the Championship. I think it's been as bad as I can remember this year, all round. Some calamitous mistakes and errors, schoolboy stuff. And then the second part of it, I guess, could technically be a second down, so I'll save it. But the general defending and standard of defending I've gone for. And your second down, mate?
My second down's for Liam Shaw for Sheffield Wednesday and his red card against Stoke City, because it was just it's avoidable. Listen, it was a bad touch, and a bad touch should not turn into a red card. You know what I mean? A bad touch, be frustrated, win the ball back, but you don't have to go over the top of the ball. You don't have to be reckless and take one foot off the floor. You know what I mean? Be frustrated, yes. Go and win the ball back, yes. You know what I mean? Be angry, yes. But you've let your team down. You know what I mean? You're winning the game, and the game which you potentially would have won with 11 men. But when you're playing against a good side with 10 men, you know what I mean? It's an uphill battle for everybody else, and your tactics have to change. The way you're playing's got to change. You know what I mean? Obviously, you're down on numbers already, so you're already a man down, and you know what I mean. And then you give a goal away, and the game just changes, and it's so frustrating for a manager and his fans and the rest of the players. It's so hard to play with 10 men.
Yeah, 100%. So the second part of my down is I was going for Liam Shaw as well, so I've kind of flipped it. And I've gone for the inconsistency of so many teams. You know, you've got your QPRs, Bristol Cities, Prestons, all go flipping from, you know, one terrible result to one great result. Even Luton, who've been very impressive this year, got absolutely, you know, battered by Cardiff, and then went and beat the best team in the league. So I just find it entertaining as all hell. But if I was a manager, I think I'd be even greyer than I already am.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's go for the ups. I wonder who one of my ups will be. But you go
I've
first.
gone for Mark Harris. Listen, you've got to give him credit for coming in the side and taking it like to a duck to water, and just his running and behind. His goal was excellent. I was really pleased. He didn't have the best of games, I think, in midweek, because 2 games in a week is a lot for a young lad to do. With how fast that the men's game is, you know, from coming out of the level he's been playing at. So yeah, it's. But listen, got to give him total credit. You know what I mean? He fitted in really well. He had an impact on every attack which Cardiff City were doing. So huge credit to him.
Yeah, phenomenal, mate. For a young man, I thought he was very impressive. But I agree with you. I didn't think he was the best in midweek. But I don't think you could expect a player of that age and experience to play phenomenal week in, week out, game after game. You got to expect that. So, my first up is Adam Armstrong of Blackburn Rovers. Yet again, 2 more goals into the 2 games. Blackburn are very good going forward, but he is one of the most consistent footballers I think I've ever seen. Just week in, week out. If he doesn't score, he assists, and even if he doesn't score or assist, he contributes to the team. Just phenomenal footballer, phenomenal attitude, but got the technical. He's not just a trier; he's got technical ability for days. Premier League player, in my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree.
And your second up
is Duncan Watmore,
very good.
I nearly put him in my downs because of there's a reporter who called him the ginger. What did they call him? The Ginger Gazelle or something, and that was always my nickname, by the way, by the Ginger Gazette, which is a local paper in Middlesbrough. So very disappointed that they've tried to take my mantle off me. If anybody's watching, very disappointed.
Absolutely disgraceful.
So, trademark, not happy. You know what I mean? Get in touch, please. Or my lawyer will be in touch. But listen, he had an excellent game. I thought he led the line really well. His pace, after some horrific injuries he's had, he did really well. He looked a confident young boy, and really excited to see him moving forward and what the future holds for him, because he's got goals in him. He's got legs. He's got energy. He gives Middlesbrough something different, what they've never had for a long time.
Yeah, he was on my shortlist because I thought he was very, very good. He scored a couple of goals. Obviously, is having a big effect on Middlesbrough, mate, as a team. So, my first up may surprise people, may not. My second up, is Neil Harris, Cardiff City manager. And the main reason I went for him is he's fighting for his job. Like, make no mistake, before Saturday's game, there was a lot of talk on social media criticising him. Rightly so, he deserved to be criticised, but it's calling for his job, saying he shouldn't be there. Then you've got people like me saying, don't think he was the right man for the job, should he have got the job, etc., etc. Even if they're not calling for him to be sacked, they're questioning him. His back was against the wall, he was under pressure, and he not just got 2 wins, didn't just dig out 2 1-0s or last minute goals. 2 excellent performances from the team. He changed the selection. He dropped some of the players that had been underperforming, and he got the players playing for him. and that's all you can do. I thought it was phenomenal to do that under pressure, is because if he had lost those 2 games, I think he was going, mate, or certainly on his way. So to do that, I thought was impressive.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Under pressure.
Listen, Si, he's given himself an opportunity. So, and listen, hopefully he's learned the way that the fans want him to play. You know what I mean? If that keeps him his job, then so be it. You know what I mean? Sometimes there's no point being stubborn about it. If it works, it works. Why fix something if it's not broken?
Absolutely spot on, mate. Couldn't agree more. So, to finish us off, we will do some questions. There was a question from Gaz, which is going to be not lengthy, but it'll be a discussion. He says, in your opinion, which footballer could or should have been nominated for Sports Personality of the Year? So I'll change that slightly and say either nominated, or if there's a footballer you think should have won it or should win it. Even if they're not nominated, I'll let you add that. And he also says, does it mean the same as it did 15 years ago? No, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm trying to think of somebody who deserves it, and football-wise, because for me, this kind of award is based on your
Performance on the
achievements
pitch,
within football, and you know what I mean. And the person which everyone's talking about is Marcus Rashford, but Marcus Rashford has been rewarded for what he's done in the community and in the world. With his MBA or his OBA or whichever he got, it's not a football decision. So for me, I'm finding it difficult, and this is me being negative, by the way. I'm just the Sports Personality of the Year is someone who's achieved something like Lewis Hamilton. So Lewis Hamilton has won the Formula One World Championship. He's consistent year in, year out. He beats the best of the world. He takes all the criticism. He takes all the plaudits. And you know what I mean. So the person who comes close in football terms, I don't know.
It's just a bit of a struggle, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Harry Kane, because he's England captain.
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean,
we haven't got a David Beckham anymore. We haven't got somebody who was that kind of.
You could look at the Scottish or the Welsh teams maybe for qualifying, but there's no one who, for me, stands out, because Kelly just says that Lewis Hamilton also broke Schumacher's record for the amount. I think that's for the amount of wins. So you know, there's not a footballer which stands out to me, and I know a lot of people have said, "Oh, Rashford should have got it. Rashford should have got it." Like for me, he's been very good this year for Man United. Last year he was very up and down, so it's like the end of last year is included in this. You know, you can't fault what he's doing off the pitch, but that's not what this award is for. It's supposed to be for the sporting achievement. So to me, there's not a footballer who stands out for it this year. And the other part of the question, does it mean the same as it did 15 years ago? Absolutely not. And to me, one of the you look at the fact that Tyson Fury put out a video yesterday saying he doesn't want to be nominated. He wants his nomination removed. He doesn't want it. He's not interested in it. He's only interested in, you know, what he does and what the fans think of him. He doesn't want that award, which I think. I think that tells you everything about what people think of it compared. Like, I remember growing up, it was a huge deal getting Sports Personality of the Year.
But the programme was huge as well, Si, as well. I mean, it had something about it, and you know, I mean, there was Team of the Year, and there was.
It's been very watered down, hasn't it?
Yeah, the event was a massive event, and it's not as
prestigious
as it was now. It's not as big as of achievement, you know, anymore. Unfortunately, you know what I mean. Football's took over, for example. You know what I mean. It's about being in the Champions League. It's about doing this. It's about doing that. Well, sometimes you forget about the individual part, or you know what I mean, or the Team of the Year, who, like the Arsenal when they went all year without getting beaten. That's an achievement for Sports Personality of the Year. It's those kind of achievements which don't seem to happen anymore.
Yeah, I agree completely. Okay, so massive couple of days on the channel and the show. So Sunday we've got a brand new Mental Health in Sport episode dropping with none other than ex-England and Liverpool goalkeeper Chris Kirkland, which was a real fascinating interview. I tell you what, I cannot fault Chris. So honest about some of the stuff that he talked about and said, and there was a couple of bits in there which I didn't know about beforehand, and they shocked me. But that's the whole point of the show, is to not to shock people, but to try and get people talking about mental health and making sure that we don't lose any more people. But I highly recommend that one. It was a real good episode. And then Monday we have Reading defender Michael Morrison joining us for the Andy Campbell Football Show, 7:30 live. Ask your questions to the current Reading centre back. It's going to be a cracker. Thank you to Black Diamond Sport for all their support as usual. And of course, guys, if you do one thing for us this weekend, is check out Bespoke Financial. See if they are offering anything which might be of interest to you. They offer all sorts of insurance and cover, and they're giving away that will with 140 quid with any new policy which is taken out. Tell them when you phone that we sent you. See what they got to offer, because they are top draw, top people, top brand.
Yep.
Do it. I think that's about it, mate. I think that's a pod.
Yeah,
Thank you very much, sir.
Again, good luck for the week, everybody. Look forward to seeing you on Monday. I'm sure there'll be some kind of story happening over the weekend. There's always something unfolds over Saturday or Sunday's football, yeah. So let's see.
Yeah, and a massive shout out to everyone who's joined us in the live chat today. I know Friday nights is not always ideal for, watching stuff and getting involved, but I appreciate you all, every single one of you, and of course the people who watch and download afterwards. We love you all. It's been a pleasure as always. We love it. We love you, and we'll see you on Monday live 7:30 Andy Campbell Football Show. Don't forget Mental Health and Sport. Chris Kirkland 8:00 Sunday. Bid you a farewell.
My mummy and daddy have been talking about life insurance. It sounds like something to protect my brother and me, but I don't really understand. Then my Auntie Louise told mummy about Bespoke Financial Teesside. She said they're a local company who helped her with her life insurance. Mummy got in touch, and because they're based locally, a man called Darren was able to come to our house. He was really friendly. Darren stayed for a cup of tea and made it all really easy to understand. He said that life insurance will protect our home and family if anything bad were to happen. Like if mummy or daddy got sick, then we'd get enough money to take care of us, and our house would be paid for so it wouldn't get taken away. After an hour, Darren said goodbye and mummy and daddy seemed a lot happier. Once it was all sorted, we could all relax and watch a film together as a family. I don't know why they didn't do it sooner.
I belong to you.
I belong to you.
Do just what you want. You're the one I trust, and I always be around when I need some loving, baby. No one else.
Yeah.
I let you down.
Let you down.